welcome to episode 4 of Tutor Chat. My name is Helen Dickman and I'm joined with Lucy Kennedy here, and we are both the co-founders of the 11 Plus English Club. So every week we come to you and we chat and sort of basically give you lots of advice and tips as much as we can about helping your child prepare for their 11 plus exams, particularly with English. That's our specialism. So this week's one is all to do with making vocabulary fun. So we feel that, no matter what exam board your child is doing, vocabulary is a huge part of it, and it's something that we get asked about quite a lot. So we're going to share with you some tips today of things that you can do around the house and in your studies to, essentially jazz it up a little bit and help them with their memory skills. So Lucy, I'll jump to you first if you'd like to go with the first tip.
Lovely. Thanks very much, Helen. So guys, first tip for you is to use the words that you're learning in conversation at home. Now, it might feel a bit over the top. It might feel strange to you at certain points when you're using all of this like extravagant vocabulary within conversation. But actually, what's it going to do? It's going to help you remember as you're talking, even if you do laugh about it and it's something that's quite weird and quite funny. It's going to almost like plant that seed really for you to then learn the word and use it in future conversation as well. So for example, let's say your child is grounded. Let's say they've been in trouble, they're grounded. You might say, how might you feel? Or how would you feel if I did ground you? Or how do you feel that you are grounded? And they might turn back and say, Mum, it's abhorrent that you've grounded me. This is ridiculous. I'm not deserving of this. And even if it does feel strange, they're going to remember it because they're having to kind of use their brain and use those words and think of how to articulate themselves. So even if it does feel a bit over the top. Let's say, for example, they do a test really well at school or maybe some homework. Ask them how they feel about it. Like, that's amazing, rather than you saying amazing. That's ridiculously clever of you. That is exceptional of you. You're so intellectual. Things like this, even if it does sound strange, which it does, even to us it does. How do you feel about it? They might retort and say, oh, I'm ecstatic, rather than, yeah, I feel okay. Yeah, I think it went well. Just, I'm ecstatic. I'm thrilled. They could use an idiom. I'm on cloud 9. I'm on top of the world. And this will just help get them used to using these words. And at the end of the day, if you can use them in conversation, then you're going to be able to, use them in writing. So yeah, broadening the use of vocabulary in conversation at home.
Definitely. And I think, like literally just Lucy, as you were going through those there, we're both like smirking and giggling about it. Like it does make you laugh, even though this is vocabulary that is kind of standard English that we use all the time. It's strange. And we always talk to the kids about this, how like your written language and your spoken language is very different. And actually like our spoken language is almost quite basic compared to like how we're expected to write. So it's really good to kind of see the difference between those. Following on from this, so this is actually a tip that we've taken from Sheena Asia. So she does the book series, the Cadwalder Quests. So we highly recommend to everybody that you get copies of those because they're fantastic. And something she recommended that we sort of also advocate as well is this idea of like your 5 a day. So thinking about, we're always told to eat our fruit and veg, although I'm sure it's more than 5 a day now. Pretty sure it's increased, but we'll stick with 5. It's a nice round number. So what you can do is go through and think of like 5 words. So what I would recommend is maybe on your fridge or on the wall in the kitchen or somewhere like that, have a little mini whiteboard. And what you can do is scribble down 5 words on there for the day that you're going to practice using in lots of different contexts. Now, what I would do, because I think the thing is, 5 is quite a lot. You're going to be moving through quite a few words. So one, make sure the whole family's involved, make it like a big team effort. And then at the end of the day, you as a parent could keep 2 little record sheets. Of those 5 words, sheet 1 could be that, yes, we feel confident with this, we know how to use it, my child sort of used it with ease. And then the other sheet could be more of a, not certain about this one, might need to recap on it. Because again, this is going to help you with revision, because in many ways, there's no point learning a word, using it for one day, and then 100 days later, it's not overly likely they're going to remember it, unless it was a particularly great word, like that, that might have stood out for them. So yeah, it's all about, again, it's the whole thing that we talked about in a few other videos. like tracking your progress as you go. And inside the 11 plus English Club, like we have these vocab courses, we have vocabulary lists that we share with you. So if you do want any of those resources, just get in touch with us and we can tell you sort of how you can access them and everything.
So tip number 3, thanks Helen for tip number 2. Tip number 3 is all to do with making learning vocabulary a fun process. Okay, don't make it something that, oh, it's time for vocabulary work now, like let's learn some new words, we have to do this because it's part of the 11 plus. You want to try and build it in with, as teachers try and do as well at school with learning, they try and make everything fun. Yeah. Okay, maybe not everything, but 99% of things they turn into a game or some kind of competition, because kids love games, they love competitions. So hosting something like a family Wordle competition, or there's a game called Wordscapes. You have, of course, got your classic board games like Scrabble. These are really fantastic to use for broadening vocabulary. It kind of, prompts all of those questions and those, oh, what does that mean? I've never heard of that word, Dad. Or Mum, you've just put that word down. What is that? Like, or see if you can come up with a synonym for the words if there are any boring ones in there. So it's definitely a mindset that you can apply to different aspects of life, not just 11 plus. Okay. And finally, even if it's not necessarily English related, but you're still having fun and you're still kind of broadening that discussion, and then games like Global, that's GLOBLE rather than the actual spelling of it, Global, which is kind of like Wordle, except it's with countries, so you have to come up with the mystery country and you kind of travel the globe. But even then, like Helen and I were just discussing this before we went live, we've played it during lessons and it ends up coming up with some random country that you've never heard of, or maybe you have heard of it but you're not quite sure where it is. It's great for adults too, just to start discussing about it and to talk about it. And something that I usually do with my kids, my students, is I say to them, like, okay, now we've found that country, like for example Venezuela, go away from today's lesson and find out something about Venezuela. Like look it up, look on look at some facts or look at some images, find out some kind of information about Venezuela. And then it's just like broadening their knowledge, their level of maturity. It's opening a discussion with them. And again, it's something fun, something memorable.
Definitely. And I think so, like you say, it's fun and it's competitive as well. And I think that's also such a huge thing about the 11 plus, is encouraging that sort of healthy competitiveness with the kids, not necessarily this sort of pressurized feeling they have in their exams. But again, we did this in our family. We would, with Wordle, we would all sit down at the same time and we'd all start playing at the same time because we were so competitive. we couldn't let anybody else get there ahead of us because we just didn't trust them to, like, we can't hold ourselves back from being like, oh, wouldn't use that letter. So it was
that's
like a
the
nice
thing.
race
Yeah.
between us.
Yeah, it's fun, isn't it? And you can feel that sense of competition. And I think games like Wordle, they're now being used at schools, and by the time our students come home from school and start and log on with us, they're like, oh yeah, we played it today, miss, we know what the word is, or but it's so good because it's working on not just spelling, vocabulary, but then also verbal reasoning, having to fit letters into gaps, and it's all relevant to 11 plus, so it's brilliant.
Yeah, 100%. And Wordscapes is the same, that's like giving you random letters and you've got to make lots of words out of them, from 3 letters to 6 letters. Obviously, it gets harder and harder as it goes. So yeah, all this stuff is totally free and totally accessible. And like the kids are learning and they don't even realize it. So win-win all round. Okay, the next one is banning the use of simple words. Now, this is something we always do in our classes as well. Bit of a joke, but we say to the kids, there's certain words that are going to go into jail. We're not allowed to use them. They're totally banned. We'll make up like some silly sort of not forfeit, but like a rule, something they might have to do if they use those words. So kids are so in the habit of using things like it was good, it was bad, it was nice, it was okay, especially when we ask them, how was school today? Good. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of it though is also how we as adults phrase those questions. So you have like open and closed questions. So if you're saying a question like, was school good? Really, it's quite a closed question that they can only really answer yes or no to that. But then
Mm,
if you're asking them things like, describe what you did at school today, that's much more open. So then they can't necessarily reply with okay or good. So
mm,
sometimes it's about us as adults as well and how we frame these things for the kids. But having these banned words at home, again, going back to my idea with the 5 words a day, and having the whiteboard, you know, you could almost have like a little tally chart on there of how many times maybe anybody in the house has used one of those banned words, because it's again about reframing ideas in their minds. And when they're doing creative writing, they're going to go to write words like it was nice and then be like, oh no, banned word. And it's going to encourage them to think of something different. So again, it's
yeah,
almost like gamifying all this stuff for them.
absolutely. And I think if your child does struggle with being able to almost recount or recite those words that they are learning, then get them to come up with just something really simple like a word web or a spider diagram. So every time they go to use the word good, write the word good in the middle, and from that have maybe 6 or 7 synonyms, and have one for, you know, if it's an event and you want to say it was really good, come up with a word that they can then switch and use instead of good. And just like, you know, make those mind excuse me, mind maps, put them up as like posters. You can make flashcards so that they're constantly seeing those, and just make it something that becomes a regular thing. It's no good kind of doing this like once a week. It needs to be almost like a daily thing, so that they're getting to grips with their vocabulary every day, making their brain, you know, work every day. Yeah, so banning the use of words is really good. And next up, this is something again that I have done with my students during class, and we call it silly sentences. And it's basically, say you do have a list of words that you are learning for that particular week. So let's say you have between 5 and 10 words. What I would do is put those words up on the screen, or you would be looking literally at like a printout or a list of them, and do a timed challenge. And this can be something that can involve, again, the whole family. Choose 3 words, the same 3 words. So like mum would choose, or let the child lead. So the child says, right, I'm going to choose word 1, word 2, word 3. Everyone has those same words, and you have to create one sentence with all 3 words included. So that doesn't mean like a sentence per word. That means one sentence. So everyone has, say, for example, 30 seconds or a minute, whatever you want to do, and say, right, we're each going to write our own sentence using those 3 words. And it's hilarious, because by the time everyone's finished, and then you all club back together and you share what you've written, people just go off on tangents, and it's crazy to see the way that the same 3 words can take them the different directions. And also will show to your child how many different ways that they can use their vocabulary and how they can start their sentences. And you know, it's such a good way, really. But yeah, that's silly sentences, and that's always a popular one.
And actually, as well, you could really combine that with all the things we've talked about, like these 5 words of the day, you know, trying to put them into our vocabulary. This is just like another way of like, you know, utilizing that little mini list that you have. So yeah, that's great. There's so much good stuff we can do. And, you know, you can be really creative as well with these things. So for example, I've done little exercises before with some kids where we've had like a particularly tricky word, or a word that we're not sure about the meaning. And then we've been, you know, especially if they're quite artistic, we've kind of almost made like drawings out of these words. So for example, we learnt the word lionize one time. So we drew a little picture of a lion and everything to represent the meaning of the word. And again, it's just a great way of sort of like activating a different part of their brains and helping them with that memory retention. Also poetry as well. I think sometimes poetry, it's a bit of a marmite, really. You know, like kids either seem to love it or hate it, that they've either done loads of it at school and not really done much before. And I think sometimes with poetry, it's great, it can be really fun and it's such a great creative outlet, but sometimes it can be quite structured, bit kind of conservative, like it's you know, it doesn't have much freedom in it. So again, you could encourage their creativity by saying together, right, we're going to think of one word. Don't do the word orange. Pretty sure nothing rhymes with orange, but think of a nice simple word. And then you can use websites like a really good one is called rhymezone.com, and you put the word into there, and then it'll basically give you a huge list, hopefully, of lots of words that rhyme with it. And it also ranks it based on a kind of percentage of how close the rhyme
Yes,
is.
I've seen this.
It's so good, it's so good. And you know, that also helps with pronunciation as well, just in itself. But what you could do is have like a word for the family, and you sit down, you look at this list of rhyming words, and you say, right, we've got to write a 5-line poem, or you could go, you know, even more niche and small, do like a haiku or something like that with the sort of, isn't it 5-7-5, I believe, like the syllables and the
Yes.
lines. And yeah, and work it and say every line has to end with one of these rhyming words. And again, just like Lucy was saying with silly sentences, everyone's probably going to go off on different tangents. Like, it's really interesting, people's psychology, where they go with these things, where their inspiration comes from. But you know, again, just echoing exactly what Lucy said, it really gives them a creative outlet and shows them like all the different ways that we can use these things. Like, I think that's why we like as English teachers love English, because there's just so much stuff you can do with it, and it's so creative. But you kind of have to like open the doors and allow the kids to be creative with it, because so much of what they do is so structured and so strict, and it
Yeah.
needs to be to an extent for the 11 plus, but there should still be a bit of like fun and creativity mixed in with it all as well, we think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think most of it, it's not just about academics and skill, it's about mindset. And if your child knows that they're about to play a game, trust me, they will have a lot more focus and energy than they would if you said, okay, let's read through the comprehension and then answer, 30 questions. It's just naturally they're going to be like, game. And we know that as teachers. So and don't see that as like a cop out. Don't see that as something that we shouldn't be doing, because actually, if your child's focus and energy is all of a sudden increased, then that's all we can ask for. And that's, making the most of their time and energy that's gone into that game. So
definitely. And we almost use games as like a bit of like reward and recognition in our lessons. So like, especially if we're doing something that's maybe like a more challenging comprehension, like we know that it's not necessarily going to be like the brightest, bubbliest lesson we've ever done. So we'll say to the kids, look, here's the deal, we're going to work really hard, we're going to concentrate, we're going to give 100% effort in this like tricky, challenging task, work together, etc. And then at the end, we're going to play a game. And of course, like Lucy said, the word game, like the eyes light up. Now, like, we know it's still educational, it's still helping them, it's actually still a part of our lesson strategy, but for them it's like a reward. So again, it's like
it's
a
a
win-win
win-win.
situation, exactly,
It
for
is,
everyone.
yeah.
Okay, guys, right, thank you so much for watching. If you do have any questions about anything we've talked about today, or if you even yourselves as families and parents have got different things that you do to help your kids learn vocabulary, please share them with us, because we do love to hear what you're up to. And yeah, everyone's always looking for bits of inspiration, aren't they? So it's great if we sort of work together and share these things. If you're interested in joining the 11 Plus English Club and finding out a bit more about what we do, all the links and everything are posted around this video, or you can get in touch with us at hello@11plusenglishclub.co.uk, and we will be happy to help you. Otherwise, guys, goodbye for now. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll be around next Monday, not next Monday, next Friday for our next episode.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye.